All right, y'all, you know, we try to give a Hustler of the Month award every month away to somebody that is just on the grind, but in an impeccable way, okay? And this guy right here that I have very excited to talk to, he has the most talked about series right now. It's called The Godfather of Harlem. You've probably heard of it. You've probably seen pictures of Forrest Whitaker in a mean suit. And this project is like 18 years in the making. Multiple no's and turn downs, and yet this brother right here persevered to make this story come to life of Bumby Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Markuann Smith, executive producer and actor, is in the building. Good morning, Markuann.
Hey, what's up, Angie Ange?
Hey, Markuann, I am so excited to have you here because, one, I kept seeing previews of Godfather of Harlem, kept hearing about it. So I go to Amazon Prime. Now, I done ended getting a subscription to Epix because of you. Okay?
Michael Writer, love to hear that.
the way 50 Cent got me to subscribe to Stars, you got me subscribing to Epix to keep up with Godfather of Harlem. But you know, when I was reading about you and I found out that I got an opportunity to interview you, and I was looking at your story, this has not been you know, just one day you woke up and said, I want to tell this story.
Nah, not at all.
Let's talk about it.
It's been 18 years of a passion project that I promised a lady by the name of Margret Johnson. Now, if you're watching Godfather of Harlem, an actress by the name of Demi, she's playing Margret Johnson. And Margret is like my godmother. So I used to go to Lenox Terrace on Sundays, and she used to tell me these magical stories about Harlem, about walking down the street, hearing Sam Cooke's voice coming out of transistor radio, or walking past 125th Street, seeing James Brown's name on the marquee, or Nat King Cole getting a haircut in Sugar Ray Robinson's barbershop. But she also used to tell me about her grandfather, how he was a not just a gangster, but he read Shakespeare, he read Nietzsche, he beat Bobby Fischer allegedly in chess. He sat down with the likes of Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, Vito Genovese, and this guy was a philosopher. He came up here from Charleston, South Carolina. He was a Geechee that came up north to make something better of his life, because Bumpy originally wanted to be an attorney. But when he went to the bursar's office, they were like, you know what, we can't give you any type of aid for color folks. So he promised them that you will regret what that decision that you made. And it was just a project that I've been working on for 18 years and making a promise to Margret to make it come to fruition.
Now, so Margret was the granddaughter. So that, because I know in the series, the granddaughter doesn't know she's the granddaughter.
Yeah,
right?
and that's exactly how it happened, because Margret was raised as his daughter. Okay. But biologically, that was his granddaughter. But she always called Bumpy Daddy. Yeah. So the way that's depicted in the series is really how it happened in her family.
Yeah, we're talking to executive producer and actor Markuann Smith. He has brought the story of Bumby Johnson to life in Godfather of Harlem. Everyone is talking about it. I highly suggest you check it out if you haven't already. Let me ask you, Markuann, I definitely want to ask you about some of the storylines, because there's a lot of it that I was like, man, how true is this to, you know, what actually happened? And what I mean by that is, in the series, Malcolm X and Bumby Johnson seem to be really good, not friends per se, but like associates.
Well, you got to understand that before he was Malcolm X, he was Detroit Red. Right. And he lived in Harlem at the time, and he was running the streets. You know, he was on dope. He was a pimp, Malcolm Little. So it would only be real because Bumpy was affiliated with the streets as well. And in history, and even on YouTube, if you look it up, it talks about Bumpy's relationship with Malcolm. It talks about how Bumpy actually paid for Malcolm X's funeral when he got assassinated. He went to every vendor in Harlem on 125th Street and made them put out a kitty to pay for his funeral. It talks about how Bumpy offered his protection to Malcolm when Malcolm left the Nation of Islam, and he knew that his life was on the line. But Malcolm turned down the opportunity because he said, if I took the opportunity for you to protect me, what will my followers think, because I have a dope dealer, a pimp protecting me.
Wow. And it's interesting too. I mean, Bumby Johnson, he's considered a made man. And he has. Can we speak a little bit to his relationship with the Italians? Because it seems in the series that a lot of when you look at Bumby Johnson and early in the drugs, drugs coming through, they kind of seem to have things a little more organized. They have a set of rules, and then when he's gone, it looks like the Italians kind of come in, and they're not really as I guess socially considerate of the people, and they're just like, we flooding the whole area.
Well, you got to think about it. You're talking about Bumpy was born in 1905. Mm-hmm. Lucky Luciano, they all were part of that regime. I mean, I basically call it the tale of three cities, right?
Okay.
Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky and all those guys were on Pleasant Avenue in East Harlem, right? Bumpy was in West Harlem, Central Harlem, right? Then you got Spanish Harlem. So they had to bump heads. They all came up in the same sandbox. Mm-hmm. Bumpy went up against Dutch Schultz in the Prohibition era. Hmm. Bumpy was the type of individual that was the liaison between East Harlem and Central Harlem, bringing the drugs into the community, because he wasn't known as a savage. He was known as a thinker.
Right.
So that's why the Italians gave him so much respect.
Got it. And I got to bring this up as well, because sometimes I feel like, how do you distinguish between kind of like not making this a glorification of drugs in the drug world? Because one of the things that I think the series makes very clear is how traumatic, like how bad drugs got as they infiltrated the communities. In particular, Bumby Johnson's, which I was curious how true this is, Bumby Johnson's own daughter, who is, the mother of the granddaughter that he's raising as his own, Elise, she is on drugs. And he kind of has to, it's almost like his karma. He has to deal with that consistently. It's like a struggle, a battle for him.
So you think about this, right? When Chris Brancato, who's the creator of Narcos, put this together, I helped initiate and create this process. He did the Escobar season. Okay. If you look at Pablo Escobar, he may have been a villain to other people, but he was a hero to certain people. Yeah. Bumpy was known as the Robin Hood of Harlem, and this is no way of a glorification of a drug dealer. This is about a older African American that comes home from Alcatraz in 1963 and fighting with his demons and redemption, showing how he destroyed the community and how he's trying to make a change. Mm-hmm. And as the season progresses, you'll see that he's fallen into the Malcolm X flow of things, where Malcolm is trying to get him to understand what you were doing was wrong. So it's not just about money, it's about humans, it's about community. And Bumpy did it the only way that he knew how to do it, coming up from Charleston, South Carolina. The story's about the American dream, by any means necessary. We all came here as immigrants, like the only indigenous people here are Native American Indians, So if Bumpy coming up here, Malcolm X coming up here, their ancestors, everybody, the Kennedys were bootleggers, so people took what they did to make something out of nothing, the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm. I can only imagine, though, what that had to feel like, again, to see your own child addicted to something that, you sold and made a lot of money off of. Like, it made me wonder, like, man, how worth it was it? Yeah. In the long run, because that seems to be the struggle. And I'm curious. And it looks like she's trying to get herself together.
Yeah, absolutely. You see in the beginning on the pilot episode where he comes and grabs his daughter up out of, she's strung out. Mm-hmm. And he says, I want to help you. Yeah. Because he's realizing his wrongs. He's fighting his demons right now. Yeah. So now Elise starts the Muslim girl training. Mm-hmm. And once the Muslim girl's training starts, she starts to see her inner self, and what she did was wrong. Yeah.
We're talking to, again, executive producer, actor Markuann Smith, Godfather of Harlem. Make sure you watch it on everything. Now, I want to transition a little bit into some of the other conversations that are brought up within this series that I really like that you all brought in, and that's the interracial relationships.
Gotcha.
Because this is very dangerous. This is a very dangerous time. I believe it's still, at this point, it's illegal for black people and white people to be married and things of that nature. So that brings us to Teddy and Stella.
So
who's the mob boss? He's like she's the daughter that can't get enough of Teddy.
Yeah, you know what it is. They say once you go black, you can't go back.
Right. And that was my first thing. I was like, man, she's just using Teddy because she want that chocolate. Man. But she's a ride or die. Yeah. Like she loves Teddy.
So
she believes in him.
So you think about it, right? When we came up with this narrative, right? 1963 Harlem is so parallel to what's happening in 2019 America right now. Harlem Riots is our Ferguson, right? Cassius Clay is our Colin Kaepernick, right? Everything started back then, from the LGBTQ movements to the civil rights movement to the Me Too to Black Lives Matter and interracial dating. These are things that were actually happening at the time, because you know what? A few years ago, Emmett Till got brutally assassinated, killed, murdered for whistling at a white woman.
Yeah.
Medgar Evers assassinated. These are things that were literally happening in history. The 4 girls in Birmingham, Alabama, you know. So we wanted to tell a story that was realistic, like these things could really happen.
Yeah.
Sammy Davis Jr. was married to a white lady, you know. So we're telling stories that really could have happened at the time, just to have people have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think when you're telling stories, you have to have a story that cuts through the fog. You have to have your A story, your B story, your C story, so it becomes a conversation.
Yeah, I love that. I love keeping up with all the stories and all the characters in different ways.
Yeah.
And again, I appreciate you just for bringing this story to life. Markuann, I want to ask you, man, because again, you said it's a passion project, 18 years in the making.
Yeah.
How did you stay with it? Like, you know, when you're getting, I read that you got turned down by 3 TV networks.
Yeah.
They passed on this project, on this story. Why did they pass? What did they tell you? Like, why did they pass on it? And how did you just say, okay, I'm going to keep going?
Well, there's a lot of things. When you walking into Hollywood and you're looking to do a pitch, you're asking somebody either it's $1 or $100 million. First thing when they want to know is what's their ROI. And for your listeners, I mean return on investments, right?
Okay.
So even sitting in a room pitching it with an Oscar Award-winning actors, Forrest Whitaker, an Emmy Award writer as Chris Brancato, we still had issues because sadly we were in a time where African-American stories, the African-American narratives really don't translate to monetary overseas. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay.
So we had to really fight to show that this would be acceptable, not just in America, but overseas as well. And then we went over to Epics with Michael Wright, who's been championing this project from the beginning. This is his flagship show. This is his passion, where he says, you know what? I don't want to be coy about this. We're going to put out a quality show. We have the money to do it. We're playing with the big boys, and we're going to make it happen, you know? I say this, like, you asked me a question, like, how did I persevere? It's because I didn't have a plan B. I don't believe in plan Bs. I believe if you have a plan B, you plan to fail. It's only a plan A in my life.
Absolutely.
And you can either chase your pension or chase your passion. I always say that, you know. And, you know, a lot of people want success, but are you ready to eat ramen noodles? Are you ready to eat tuna fish sandwiches? Are you ready to take a buddy pass knowing that you have a meeting at Netflix at 9 o'clock in the morning and you hope you can get on that plane Sunday and they got room for you to make it?
Right.
Are you willing to sleep on somebody's floor, somebody's couch because you can't afford a hotel? If you're not ready to do that, then you're not ready for success. And I tell people all the time, don't look at my breakthrough, look what I've been through. Because there's no bunk beds in the graveyard. You only get one chance and one opportunity in life to go about capturing your dreams. You need to protect your dreams. That's all you have. That's your pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that means, you know, just seeing that, like, you kind of have a long list of credits when I was looking at, you know, different things that you've been a part of, different groups and people. Can we talk a little bit just about leading up to your becoming an executive producer, the road to that?
This is not my first rodeo. This is just a horse I didn't fall off of. You know what I'm saying? So I started in the music industry. My older brother's an artist by the name of Father MC. He was big in the late 80s, 90s. Puffy was our A&R. I started touring. I was a roadie. For people out there that don't know what a roadie is, I did the grunt work. I carried coffins. This before they had Seratos. I was carrying turntables and doing all the dirty work. Like, you know, Tupac was a roadie for Digital Underground. Tretch was a roadie for Latifah. And it was fun. It was the era when music was fun. And after that, I left and I started working at BET. And, you know, I just wasn't fit for corporate America. You know, I was bigger than just getting up at 9 o'clock, going on a lunch break at 1 o'clock, and your boss saying, yo, you're not back at 1:30, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then 5 o'clock you leaving and you're doing it repetitively, you know. So, you know, it's been a journey of 1,000 no's. But you're your own destiny, so you have to curate your destiny. You have to create your own plan. You know, we're living in an age right now that you can create your own content. So if somebody says no, right? If you knock down opportunity's door and it doesn't open for you, go to Home Depot and buy some lumber and build your own door. Create your own projects. You know what I'm saying? So that was my journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's certainly paying off now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible that you've been fighting for this story to be told for 18 years. So congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
success. What do you hope to accomplish with Godfather of Harlem? What's the end game? What's the big goal when this is all said and done? I know you told me the last episode is December 1st. That's going to really upset me. And will there be a second season?
Well,
because I'm like really into this.
We'll know. You know, we're waiting. Okay. The public has been very receptive and they like it. You know, the network is very happy. It's a conversation, and when shows become a conversation, they become success. Just like how Power was a conversation,
right?
Like Snowfall was a conversation. So that's the first thing about conversations. And you know, every year, I'll tell you this: every year, 63 is the first season, 64. You'll see Malcolm's progress as he leaves and goes to Mecca, and he realizes the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is not what he believes in.
Right.
And then 65, 66, 67, 68. So there's so much things that happen in the 60s and so much historical things from the Beatles invasion. You'll actually see, you know, guys like me who had low cuts start growing afros because and you see it unfold in front of you. You see the Italians who had short hair start growing long hair and long collars. So you'll see the music, the music will change. And have to give a shout out to Swiss Beats who's the executive music producer. That's my big brother. He put together a monster soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know, Zone. That's what I always say with him. You know, he's an amazing person, him and Grady. And what they did was took the story to another level where you can hear the contemporary music of today and music of the past. So you may hear Sam Cooke, but you'll hear Rick Ross. Or you may hear Martha and the Vandellas, but you'll hear Emily Sandé or Belly or Jindenya or A-Child. You know what I'm saying? So the music was actually it was fun being in the studio with him because he had so many rooms open showing Godfather of Harlem with different artists. It was like an artist camp.
So they were all a part of. You were a part of that process and the music as well.
There was an artist camp. You know, shout out to ASAP Ferg, Wale, Dave East, Pusha T. You know, this is it's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like a cultural collaboration. I love that. I mean, even the intro, you know, it's like, you know, you hear that
Looking
Swiss
out
voice
my window
again. Yeah, I mean, and the beat is just like, I mean, it gets you excited every time. I literally, like, I go to Epics, I'm like, okay, is the episode out? Because I don't know when they come out. I just see that it's like watch new episode. But yeah, I mean, looking forward to it. Last question for you, Markuann. How did you connect with Forrest Whitaker and get him a part of the project?
What happened was my partner Jim Atchison. He's a great guy from L.A. and he's a movie producer. We sat down one night and I pitched the show to him and he was like, "Oh, this is an amazing show," and we already had Forrest on board because Jim's wife works with Forrest as well, and Joanne Colano, and Forrest really just attached himself as a producer. And he wanted to make sure the script was the right script for him to attach himself as an actor. He knew he wanted to be part of the project. So after 11 or 12 drafts that Chris Brancato went through with Paul Eckstein, it became that draft that Forrest was like, I'm ready to commit to play Bumpy and I'm ready to focus because I'm a method actor as well. So he went into the trenches and said, you know what, I'm ready to play Bumpy. So that's how it came about.
Awesome. Well, Forrest Whitaker does a heck of a job as Bumby Johnson. Looking forward to all the success and future seasons of it. To anybody out there that's an aspiring actor or that wants to get into Hollywood and they're just, you know, they're maybe just getting started or maybe they're in acting classes or maybe they haven't gotten their big break yet, what advice would you give them?
I would tell you to have tough skin. Expect a no before a yes, and don't look at it as a disappointment. Look at it as a lesson. Perfect your craft. If you have to go to Barnes and Nobles and get screenwriting for dummies or filmmaking for dummies, acting for dummies, and remember all the time it's 90% business, 10% creative, and just keep your head up and just, you know, always focus. It's your dream. And don't ever let anybody tell you what you can't do. Absolutely.
Markuann Smith, thank you so much. I saw, is it true that, did it cost $60 million to make this? Or
it was about...
Is that the type of budget you need?
Well, you think about it because the pilot is directed by John Ridley. Oscar award-winning director, 12 Years a Slave.
So he's not cheap.
The DP is Guillermo Navarro, another Oscar award-winning Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay.
You know, we have Ernest Dickinson, we have Joe Chappelle, we have Tanya Richardson. You know, we have a plethora of great actors. We have Giancarlo Esposito, Vincent D'Onofrio, Paul Savino, Sonia Son's in here. You know, Clifton Davis. Nigel Thatch, Ilfanesh Hadera, and the list goes on, you know. So to put out quality, you have to spend quality. And if you look at it and you can see the quality that it is, you know, that's how, if you want to play for real, you have to spend money for real to put out great product.
And is that something that you had to go and find investors for? Or was that something where once you got the network on board, then they kind of put it up?
Epix is the network. So Epix contributed to paying that cost to put the project out, and ABC, they're partners, ABC and Epix.
Okay, and then
ABC Signature.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, because I'm always interested in the business of how does it get done, you know, because like you said, 90% business, 10%.
Domestic sales, foreign sales, domestic territory, foreign territory. You know.
Well, I would love to have you back again, Markuann.
Oh,
at some
I'm
point.
here. Let's do it.
Do a follow-up. Let everybody know one more time how they can get access to Godfather of Harlem.
Well, you can get access to Godfather of Harlem every Sunday on Epix. That's EPIX, 9 o'clock.
All right, there it is, man. Godfather of Harlem, Markuann Smith, Hustler of the Month. Let's get it. Looking forward to see you at the award shows, too.
Thank you. Oh, can I give him my Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. Let everybody know.
You can follow me at MARKUANN on Instagram and on Twitter at DA Real REAL Markuann MARKUANN. And thank you for having me, Angie.
All day. Let me ask, are you working on any other projects, or is this kind of the main focus? Oh, it's like working on multiples?
Of course, you have to stay busy because you have to be prepared and stay ready. I'm actually working on a project about a guy from the Bronx by the name of Larry Davis.
Nice.
Larry Davis was forced to sell drugs by corrupt cops. I'm working on the Suge Knight TV side of the spectrum of his intellectual property with his fiance Toylan Kelly.
Okay.
I have an animated show called Sneakerheads that I'm working on with Clifton Bell. I got a few things up my sleeve that we're about to make happen.
Awesome. You staying busy out
Absolutely.
here. All right, Markuann.
And I'm in a movie coming out.
Hey,
Sorry about
too.
In December with Lou Gossett Jr.
Nice.
It's called Forget to Remember Me.
Okay, so we'll be looking out for that too.
Thank you.
All right, Markuann. Now that's what I call hustling, man, on the morning hustle.